Uniform Civil Code UCC. Context: Gujarat announces plan to bring in UCC. Meaning of UCC: UCC is one that would provide for one law for the entire country, applicable to all religious communities in their personal matters such as marriage, divorce, inheritance, adoption, guardianship, etc., laws based on scriptures and religious texts. Article 44. State shall endeavor to secure a UCC for the citizens throughout the territory of India. From the past, origin traced to Romans, governed themselves based on civil law, not holy texts. Mesopotamia's Ur-Nammu, oldest code in history. Lex Loci Report, 1840 stressed the importance and necessity of uniformity in the codification of Indian law relating to crimes, evidence and contract. However, it exempted the personal laws of Hindus and Muslim personal laws from being codified. Queen's Proclamation, 1859 absolute non-interference in religious matters. As a result, criminal laws have been codified as is commonly applied across the country, whereas personal laws continue to be governed by separate codes based of different communities. UCC in Civil Matter: Indian Contract Act, Civil Procedure Code, Sale of Goods Act, Transfer of Property Act, Partnership Act, Evidence Act, etc. As states have made amendments to these acts, there is diversity within the secular civil laws as well. Is India ready for UCC? Take. Need for uniformity of laws and ease of administration too. Uplift women who are being subjugated by archaic religious laws. 3. Justice to oppressed religious communities who are discriminated with religious sanction. 4. Bias in personal laws of every faith in India. Unequal succession laws of almost all faith irrespective of how different the religious practices are. 5. Go UCC working effectively despite population diversity. 6. Many Islamic countries have reformed personal laws to suit the ideas of the time. Turkey has abolished polygamy. Jordan and Egypt have banned triple talaq, etc. 7. Western democracies follow a common civil code. Why risky? Take. Concerns of misuse by religious forces too. Misinterpretation by politicians. Way ahead: build consensus by bringing together experts from all communities and faiths together to draw the best from the respective traditions and practices. Such a code should be made applicable to modern times. Constitution Day. Direction: this is important for mains. Keep ready the points about the strengths and weaknesses of the Indian Constitution. Ah. Insights on India. Com 15. Context: the Constitution of India was adopted by the Constituent Assembly on November 26, 1949, for "We the People of India." After being unnoticed for a long, the day began to be celebrated as Constitution Day since 2015. The Constitution of India, after more than 72 years of its adoption, continues to function as the framework within which the government of our country operates. Another testimony is that despite amending it more than 100 times, its basic premises remain unaltered because of the political and judicial maturity. An enduring constitution is a rare phenomenon and acts as the soul of a nation or the defining identity of a country. Sources of Constitution. Tilak's Swaraj Bill of 1895, which included rights to free speech, free press, and equality before the law. Declaration of Rights of 1918, where the Indian National Congress demanded that civil and political rights include the right to life and liberty, freedom of press and association, and for all this to be included in the Government of India Act 1919. Resolution of Fundamental Rights and Economic Changes at the Karachi session of the Congress in 1931. Government of India Act, 1935. Constitution has a clear imprint on day-to-day life. Rights we enjoy it as the Constitution which made this possible through fundamental rights. Freedom of movement, freedom of expression, freedom to choose a calling of our liking, freedom to buy, sell and carry on any trade, freedom to wear garments of our choice. All these freedoms emanate from the Constitution in the form of fundamental rights. Weakness of the Constitution. Law is a weak source to bring about change in human thinking and behavior. Just because the Constitution declared all Indians as equals, equality does not prevail from the day of such a declaration. Poor awareness. Constitutional values such as respect for women, empathy towards the weak and the meek, and rejecting dowry, caste and creed as the basis to measure the values of a person are seldom practiced. Hardly any focus on the Constitution at the school level, not to speak of tertiary education. Changes in the Indian Constitution. The Constitution of India is called a living document rather than a closed and static rule book. The procedure of amendment in the Constitution is laid down in Part XX, Article 368 of the Constitution of India to meet the aspirations and the need of the coming generations. But despite amendments to make the much needed changes, the basic principles have remained inviolable. Despite amendments, the basic premises remained unchanged. The farsightedness of the Constituent Assembly. It is true that the Constitution makers were very farsighted and provided many solutions for future situations. They wanted the Constitution to be flexible and at the same time rigid. They have created a different kinds of amendment procedures ranging from a simple majority to ratification by the states. Basic Structure Doctrine. The Supreme Court has given a clear list of the basic features of our Constitution, which cannot be amended. Judiciary has the power to decide whether an amendment violates basic structure or not. The Kesavananda Bharati ruling has set clear limits on Parliament's power to amend the Constitution, which helps in making the basic premises unchangeable. The doctrine of basic structure restrained the authoritarianism of the government. Maturity of the political leadership. Political Power 16 or Insights on India. Com. Ties. Political leaders, the government, and parliament accepted and followed in letter and spirit the idea of an inviolable basic structure. Even when there was talk about a review of the Constitution, that exercise could not cross the limits set by the theory of the basic structure. Judicial efforts and interventions. During the controversy between the judiciary and the parliament, the parliament thought that it had the unchecked power and responsibility to make laws and amendments, but the judiciary insisted that it has to take place within the framework provided by the Constitution, and Parliament should not bypass the basic features. For example, after the Supreme Court gave the ruling in the Kesavananda case, some attempts were made to ask the court to reconsider its ruling. When these failed, the 42nd Amendment was made and parliamentary supremacy was asserted. But the court again repeated its earlier stand in the Minerva Mills case, 1980. Indian constitution accepts the necessity of modifications according to changing needs of society. Even after so many changes in society, the constitution continues to work effectively because of this ability to be dynamic, to be open to interpretations and the ability to respond to the changing situation. This is a hallmark of a democratic constitution. There has been enough flexibility in interpretations. In a democracy, practices and ideas keep evolving over time and the society engages in experiments according to these. A constitution, which protects democracy and yet allows for the evolution of new practices, becomes not only durable but also the object of respect from the citizens. Conclusion: the Constitution empowers the people as much as the people empower the Constitution. The framers had realized that no matter how well written and how detailed, it would have little meaning if it failed to establish a symbiotic bond with the institutions and the people. It was the foresight, intellect, and ingenuity of the great men in the Constituent Assembly that helped succeed in framing a constitution whose acceptability has only grown with each passing generation. Mains Links Q. Despite undergoing many amendments, the Constitution of India has remained intact and the basic premises have not changed. Comment. 15M. Prelims Links Q. Consider the following statements UPSC 2022-1. Pursuant to the report of the H.N. Sanyal Committee, The Contempt of Courts Act, 1971 was passed. Though the Constitution of India empowers the Supreme Court and the High Courts to punish for contempt of themselves. 3. The Constitution of India defines civil contempt and criminal contempt. 4. In India, the Parliament is vested with the power to make laws on contempt of court. Which of the statements given above are correct? 8, 1 and 2 only B, 1, 2 and 4 C, 3 and 4 only D, 3 only answer B. Q. What was the exact constitutional status of India on the 26th of January 1950? UPSC 2021. A democratic republic. B. A sovereign democratic republic. C. Sovereign secular democratic republic. D. A sovereign socialist secular democratic republic. Answer B. Q. Constitutional government means UPSC 2021 A representative government of a nation with federal structure. B. A government whose head enjoys nominal powers. C. A government whose head enjoys real power. D. A government limited by the terms of the Constitution. Answer D. Parliament. Status of Sri Lanka Tamil Refu. Gs. Context: the Supreme Court will hear petitions challenging the Citizenship Amendment Act (CAA). Background of the issue: for over 4 decades, nearly 30,000 Indian origin Tamils have been classified as stateless persons, based on technicalities. The recent Citizenship Act will need to be amended to include them under it. Insights on India. Com 17. After the Civil War, steps by India for Indian origin Tamils. Welfare, refugee welfare and rehabilitation. Refugee status. To both Indian origin Tamils and Sri Lanka Tamil refugees, illegal migrants. As per the CAA 2003, Indian origin Tamils who arrived after 1983 without authorized channels or proper documentation were declared illegal migrants. Judicial stand. P. Ulaganathan vs. Government of India 2019. Continuous period of statelessness of Indian origin Tamils affects their fundamental right under Article 21. The Union government has the power to grant relaxation in conferring citizenship. Abhirami S. We as the Union of India 2022 Principles of the CAA 2019 would also apply to Sri Lanka Tamil refugees. Global practices. The United States Immigration and the Nationality Technical Corrections Act retroactively grants citizenship to all children born to an alien father and citizen mother. Brazil, through constitutional amendment of 2007 retroactively granted citizenship to children under jus sanguinis ethnicity, nationality of one both parents. Way forward, given their genealogical link to India, the Government of India needs to consider extending citizenship benefits to them in accordance with Indian bilateral obligations and international humanitarian principles and international conventions. Constitutional provisions. Article 5. All those domiciled and born in India were given citizenship. Article 6. It provided the rights of citizenship of certain persons who have migrated to India from Pakistan. Article 7. Provided rights of citizenship of certain migrants to Pakistan. Article 8. Provided rights of citizenship of certain persons of Indian origin residing outside India. Article 9. Provided that if any person voluntarily acquired the citizenship of a foreign state will no longer be a citizen of India. Article 10. Every person who is or is deemed to be a citizen of India under any of the foregoing provisions of this part shall, subject to the provisions of any law that may be made by Parliament, continue to be such citizen. Article 11. It empowers Parliament to make any provision with respect to the acquisition and termination of citizenship and all matters relating to it. Insta links, CAA 2019 Citizenship Amendment Act Rules. Prelims links, Q. With reference to citizenship, consider the following statements. 1. If any person voluntarily acquires citizenship of a foreign state, he/she will no longer be a citizen of India. Though Parliament along with respective state legislatures can make laws with respect to the acquisition and termination of citizenship. Which of the statements given above are correct? A. 1 only B. 2 only C. Both 1 and 2D. Neither 1 nor 2. Ans. A. Structure, organization and functioning of the judiciary. Collegium system of appointments of judges to the higher Ju. DICIARY 18 Insights on India. Com. Context. Recently, the Union Minister of Law and Justice criticized the collegium system under which appointments of judges to the High Courts (HC) and the Supreme Court (SC) are made as opaque. Background. The National Judicial Appointments Commission (NJAC) was a proposed body which would have been responsible for the recruitment, appointment and transfer of judges to the HCS and SC. It was established by amending the Constitution of India through the 99th Constitutional Amendment Act 2014. However, in 2015 it was struck down by the SC on the grounds of endangering judicial independence. About the collegium system, it is the way by which judges of the SC and HCS are appointed and transferred. It is a 5-member body, which is headed by the incumbent Chief Justice of India (CJI) and comprises the 4 other senior-most judges of the court at the time. A High Court collegium is led by the incumbent Chief Justice and 2 other senior-most judges of the court. Judges of the higher judiciary are appointed only through the collegium system, and the government has a role only after names have been decided by the collegium. Names recommended for appointment by a High Court collegium reach the government only after approval by the CJI and the SC collegium. The role of the government in this entire process is limited to getting an inquiry conducted by the Intelligence Bureau if a lawyer is to be elevated as a judge in AHC or the SC. The government may also object to and seek clarification on the collegium's choices, but if the collegium reiterates the same names, the government is bound to appoint them. The collegium system is not rooted in the constitution or a specific law promulgated by parliament, rather it has evolved through judgments of the SC. The evolution of the collegium system, 3 judges cases, SP Gupta or others v. Union of India, 1981, the opinion of the CJI had no primacy over the opinion of the Chief Justice of the HC, thus, both have equal importance in the consultation process. Advocate on Record Association v. UOE, 1993. The court overruled the above case and held that in the matters of appointment and transfer of judges, the view of CJI has the greatest significance. In Re-Presidential Reference Case, 1998, the rake commendation made by the CJI without following the consultation process for appointment of SC and HC judges is not binding on the government. Criticism of the collegium system. According to the critics, the system is non-transparent since it is seen as a closed-door affair with no prescribed norms regarding eligibility criteria, selection procedure. The system is opaque and not accountable. Judges do not appoint judges all over the world, but in India, they do. Way ahead, the Memorandum of Procedure (MOP), an agreement between the judiciary and the government, came into existence after NJAC was struck down, that outlines the criteria for appointing judges to the SC and HCS, must be followed in letter and spirit. Insta links. The court and the problem with its collegium. Mains links, Q. Critically examine the Supreme Court's judgment on National Judicial Appointments Commission Act, 2014, with reference to appointment of judges of higher judiciary in India. UPSC 2017. A court of the future, fine-tuning mechanisms of accountability within judiciary. Direction. This was an editorial article. You may take a few points from the way forward as innovative measures. Context. The Supreme Court of India renders ultimate judgment on decisions not only of the High Courts 18 for 28 states Jor 8 UTS but also national and state tribunals operating throughout India. Related constitutional provisions. Article 141, the law declared by the Supreme Court shall be binding on all courts within the territory of India. This means, there is hardly any area of legislative or executive activity that escapes the scrutiny of the highest court. Precautions SC needs to take in the future. Preserve its independence. It is best protected by the judges themselves through institutions established by statutes or judicial decisions. For example, the collegium system. Efficient court case management. It is important for reducing the backlogs of pending cases over 4.5 crores across all courts in India. Insights on India. Com 19. The SC had drawn up a fine blueprint for case management. For example, fast track, normal track and slow track to be three different tracks. However, Most of the HCS have not implemented this blueprint due to their autonomous constitutional status. Way ahead, a system of judicial accountability by enacting a law. Best practice, the Judicial Councils Act, 1980 confers powers on bodies composed of judges to take action against a judge charged with misconduct. Judicial governance demands judges to be ethical. They must make annual financial disclosure statements public, rather than confidentially to their respective chief justices. It is done by justices of the U.S. Supreme Court. Integrated Court Case Management. It is time that the SC be given direct responsibility for the functioning of the HCS, allowing not just the HCS but also the SC to function as an effective court. Conclusion. As India's highest court, the SC must strive to retain public trust in the established courts. This can be accomplished if judges set an example of the highest moral ethical conduct for all. What a great man does, other men do. The standard he sets up, by which the others move. Annie Besant translation of the third discourse in the Bhagavad Gita. Insta links, independence of judiciary. Mains links, Q. What do you understand by judicial independence? How can the independence of the judiciary be provided and protected in India? Critically examine. Inclusion of Dalit Christians, Dalit Muslims in SC list. Context. Case for the inclusion of Dalit Christians and Dalit Muslims on the list of scheduled castes is being heard in the Supreme Court. Central government justification for the exclusion of Dalit Christians and Dalit Muslims from the scheduled castes list of foreign origins of Islam and Christianity is opposed to Hinduism, Sikhism and Buddhism, although the government has not directly said so. The identification of scheduled castes is centered around a specific social stigma and the connected backwardness with such stigma, that is limited to the communities identified in the Constitution. Scheduled Castes Order, 1950. Scheduled castes converts to Buddhism embraced Buddhism voluntarily at the call of Dr. Ambedkar in 1956 on account of some innate socio-political imperatives. The original castes community of such converts can clearly be determined. However, this cannot be said in respect of Christians and Muslims who might have converted on account of other factors. Article 14 forbids class legislation but does not forbid classification. Who is included in the Constitution Order of 1950? The Constitution Scheduled Castes Order of 1950 recognized only Hindus as SCS. Amendments 1956 and 1990 included Dalits who had converted to Sikhism. 1956 included Dalits who had converted to Buddhism. 1990. Both amendments were aided by the reports of Kaka Kalelkar Commission in 1955, High-Powered Panel HPP, on Minorities, SC, ST in 1983. Why are Dalit Christians excluded? The practice of untouchability. It was a feature of the Hindu religion and its branches, not Islam or Christianity. The Registrar General of India had cautioned the government that SC status is meant for communities suffering from social disabilities arising out of the practice of untouchability. A mandate in Rules for Inclusion. Framed in 1999, it requires RGI approval. Clause 2 of Article 341 for inclusion. Dalits who converted to Islam or Christianity belong to different caste groups, as a result of which they cannot be categorized as a single ethnic group required for inclusion. Case for inclusion. Several independent commission reports have documented the existence of caste and caste inequalities among Indian Christians and Indian Muslims. Casteism. Even in Sikhism and Buddhism, casteism is not present and yet they have been included as SCS. 20 Insights on India. Com. Advocate representing Dalit Christian bodies. Empirical evidence did not exist for including Sikh or Buddhist converts either and yet they were included as SCS. Registrar General of India. Established in 1949 under the Ministry of Home Affairs. To develop a systematic collection of statistics on the size of the population, its growth, etc. Later, this office was also entrusted with the responsibility of implementing of Registration of Births and Deaths Act, 1969 in the country. It arranges, conducts and analyzes the results of the demographic surveys of India including the Census of India and Linguistic Survey of India. Interlinks, Scheduled Caste National Commission for Scheduled Castes. Mains links, Q. Whether the National Commission for Scheduled Castes NCSC can enforce the implementation of constitutional reservation for the scheduled castes in religious minority institutions. Examine. UPSC 2018. Prelims links. National Commission for Scheduled Castes NCSC, Registrar General of India Article 341. Minorities Kaka Kalelkar Commission. Q. With reference to National Commission for Scheduled Castes NCSC, consider the following statements. 1. It is a statutory body that works to safeguard the interests of the scheduled castes SC in India. Though the Commission has powers to set up special courts for the speedy trial of offences under the Civil Rights Act. Which of the statements given above are correct? A. 1 only B. 2 only C. Both 1 and 2 D. Neither 1 nor 2 ones, B. Transfers unexplained, on the transfer of High Court judges. Context. The frequent criticism that the collegium system of judicial appointments is opaque, appears to be more valid in the case of transfers of judges from one high court to another. Background. Lawyers recently raised the matter of the transfer of a Gujarat HC judge, Justice Kareel, to the Chief Justice of India CJI, citing rumours that the Gujarat HC Chief Justice was uninformed of the impending transfer. The Indian Constitution on the transfer of judges. Article 222, it provides for the transfer of HC judges, including the Chief Justice. The President, after consultation with the CJI, may transfer a judge from one HC to any other HC. A compensatory allowance is provided to the transferred judge. Interpretation. The executive could transfer a judge, but only after consulting the CJI. The Supreme Court's view on the issue. The SC in 1977 rejected the idea that HC judges can be transferred only with their consent alone, as the transfer powers can be exercised only in the public interest. Also, the President is under an obligation to consult the CJI. In SP Gupta vs. President of India, 1981, the judges transfer case. The first judges case, the SC ruled that the consultation with the CJI did not. 1977 rejected the idea that HC judges can be transferred only with their consent alone, as the transfer powers can be exercised only in the public interest. Also, the President is under an obligation to consult the CJI. In SP Gupta vs. President of India, 1981, the judge's transfer case. The first judge's case, the SC ruled that the consultation with the CJI did not mean concurrence, thus giving primacy to the executive in the matter of appointments and transfers. However, this position was overruled in the second judge's case, 1993. The opinion of the CJI, formed after taking into account the views of senior-most judges, was to have primacy. Since then, appointments are being made by the collegium. The current procedure for transfers. The proposal for transfer should be initiated by the CJI and the consent of the judge is not required. All transfers are to be made in the public interest. For transferring a judge other than the Chief Justice, the CJI should take the views of the Chief Justice of the court concerned or the Chief Justice of the court to which the transfer is taking place. One or more SC judges, the views, expressed in writing, should be considered by a full collegium of 5 the CJI or 4 senior-most judges of the SC. Insights on India. Com21. The recommendation is sent to the Union Law Minister, the Prime Minister, the President. Need for the transfer of judges to exchange talent across the country. To prevent the emergence of local grouping in the judiciary. What makes transfers controversial? Accusation that there is a punitive element behind the decision. The SC and the government do not disclose the reason for a transfer. The power of transfer is seen as a possible threat to judicial independence. Conclusion. There have been proposals that 1/3 of the composition of every HC should have judges from other states. Revelation of the exact reason may not always be possible. It must be emphasized that transfer cannot be used as a punitive measure. The time has arrived to review the whole process of judges' transfer to make it more transparent. Insta links. High Court. Mains links, Q. The debate on the working of the collegium, especially on the issue of transfers in the judiciary and lack of transparency, has again come around. Examine. 250 words. Prelims links. Consider the following statements. 1. The parallel judicial systems of courts and tribunals can provide for direct appeals to the Supreme Court, bypassing the high courts. Though the collegium has the power to transfer judges and chief justices from one high court to another. 3. The high courts in India were created based on the provisions of the Indian Independence Act, 1947. Which of the above statements are correct? A. 1 only, B. 1 and 2 only, C. 2 and 3 only, D. 1, 2 and 3 ans, B. Constitutional posts and bodies. SC calls out Centre over short tenures of CEC. Direction. The article highlights the SC's views on the deficiencies in India's election commissioners' appointment procedure, as well as solutions to address these shortcomings. Context. According to the Supreme Court, the government does not give much importance to commissioners' independence, as evidenced by the reduction in average tenures of Chief Election Commissioners (CECs) from over 8 years in 1950 to just a few hundred days after 2004. Background. Presently, election commissioners are appointed by the President of India, on the aid and advice of the Council of Ministers. The Election Commission Conditions of Service of Election Commissioners and Transaction of Business Act, 1991, prescribes that the term of ACEC and election commissioners is 6 years or till the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. Article 324 of the Indian Constitution, dealing with the appointment of election commissioners, call for the enactment of legislation to oversee such appointments, but the government is yet to do so. The SC was hearing petitions seeking reforms in the system of appointing the election commissioners. What has the SC said about the election commissioners? The Constitution of India has vested vast powers on the shoulders of the CEC and the two election commissioners. Apart from competence, character is crucial, so that those appointed as election commissioners will not allow themselves to be bulldozed. In the absence of a law to oversee such appointments, the silence of the India Constitution is being exploited by all. The government assures that the person nominated does not serve the full 6 years by picking someone close to 65, thus undermining independence. An election commissioner should be someone who can take a stand even if it means sacrificing his/her life, rather than a passive yes man. If ECAs become CECs, then there is no independent mechanism to consider persons other than ECAs for 22 or insight. The court gave the government 24 hours to produce the file of appointment of former IAS officer Arun Goel as a, to know the mechanism followed for making this appointment. Arun Goel, a former IAS officer from the Punjab cadre, is set to succeed Rajiv Kumar as CEC when his term expires in 2025. Why are reforms in the system required? The Election Commission of India (AC) has earned public trust due to its exemplary work as an independent and neutral authority. This achievement has been made possible because as a constitutional authority, the ECIS autonomy is guaranteed and its functioning insulated from the interference of the executive and judiciary. However, there is growing concern on that front. For example, the CEC and the two commissioners joined an online interaction called by the Prime Ministers of FI's PMO. The panel imposed COVID restrictions on electioneering only after the PM completed his campaign. ECIS unwillingness to censure the ruling party's leaders for violating the Model Code of Conduct while pulling up opposition leaders during the 2019 general election. The government's reply: appointment on the basis of a time-tested convention. A list of serving and retired officials in the position of secretaries is prepared for consideration of the Prime Minister and President. The PM, after considering the names, recommends one name to the President along with a note. The appointment of ECAs follows seniority and the senior among the two ECAs goes on to become the CEC. There is no vacuum in the Constitution on the issue. If the Constitution takes a position despite multiple ideas put forward by the original Constituent Assembly, that position cannot be contested. The separation of powers cannot be challenged, as it is the basic feature of the Constitution. This matter is for Parliament to debate and not the court. Except for a few odd cases, there had been no complaints about the Election Commission's independence, and its work had even won worldwide fame. Suggestions given by the SC. An appointment committee including the Chief Justice of India to appoint the election commissioners to ensure neutrality. SC has also advised the government to take a leave from the appointment of ECAs in UK, Pakistan and Nepal. According to experts, though the SC is correct in emphasizing the need for the AC to be protected from political pressure, the CJI's participation on the appointment panel will provide that cover is a questionable assumption. Conclusion: a CEC of the caliber of TN Seshan is required to ensure free and fair elections and to strengthen democracy in India. Though such personalities appear occasionally, appointments without any bias can provide close to one. There is no reason to change the arm's length relationship, which the judiciary has respected and maintained with the AC previously. About the Election Commission of India, AC, it is a permanent constitutional body established in 1950 to conduct and regulate elections in the country. Article 324 of the Constitution provides that the power of superintendence, direction and control of elections to Parliament, state legislatures, the office of the President of India, and the office of Vice President of India shall be vested in the Election Commission. Thus, the Election Commission is an all-India body in the sense that it is common to both the central government and the state governments. It is a multi-member body, one CEC joined two ECAs, and the tenure of election commissioners is not prescribed by Indian Constitution. The CEC of India can be removed from thereof. FIs. In a manner similar to the removal of a judge of the SC of India, while other ECAs can be removed by the President of India on the recommendation of the CEC. A CEC has never been impeached in India. Insta links. Appointment of election commissioners. Mains links. Q. Critically analyze the role and powers of the Election Commission of India AC in conducting free and fair elections. 250 words. Prelims links. Consider the following statements about the Election Commission of India. 1. Since inception, the Election Commission has been a multi-member body consisting of 3 election Insights on India. Com 23. Commissioners. Though Election Commissioner or a Regional Commissioner cannot be removed from FIs except on the recommendation of the Chief Election Commissioner. 3. They determine the territorial areas of the electoral constituencies throughout the country. Which of the above statements are correct? A. 1. 2 only B. 3 only C. 2. 3 only D. 1. 2 only solution. C. Statutory, regulatory and various quasi-judicial bodies. India is losing its cherished right to know direction. This is an editorial article. The article highlights how the 2019 amendments to the RTI Act affected the functioning of the Central Information Commission. Context: the Central Information Commission's (CIC) most important role is to decide whether particular information sought by a person should be disclosed or not. However, the Commission appears to have abandoned its core task in matters of greater public importance. Background: citizens can file applications under the Right to Information (RTI) Act with any public entity and are guaranteed a response from that public body's public information FIs within 30 days. If the citizen does not receive a response or is dissatisfied with the response, he may file an appeal at the departmental level, followed by a second and ultimate appeal with the Information Commission. Each state has its own State Information Commission that handles second appeals involving state agencies. The CIC is in the center. Functioning of CIC as a transparent body. The Commission was an outspoken supporter of transparency in public life. It had issued orders in a wide range of public interest cases. For example, boldly declaring that political parties were subject to the RTI Act and thus accountable to the public. Requiring disclosure of the current Prime Minister's educational qualifications and the Reserve Bank of India's list of willful loan defaulters. The 2019 amendment to the RTI Act. Impact of amendments on the functioning of CIC. Delegating its mandate to the Home Ministry. The Commission has delegated matters of public concern to the Ministry, such as cases demanding disclosure of files related to the COVID-19 national lockdown or data pertaining to phone tapping orders. In most cases, the ministries reiterate their previous position of non-disclosure, usually on the vague grounds of national interest. Violation of the cardinal rule of natural justice. No one should be a judge in their own cause. However, the ministry that stands accused of violating the RTI Act decides whether a disclosure is necessary. Huge pendency of cases fairly simple to adjudicate. For example, in a case seeking disclosure of documents relating to the unlawful Prevention Amendment Act, 2019, the Commission has kept the matter pending for more than 3 months now. New hurdles to a citizen's demand for accountability. As the disclosure of information in public interest matters is denied. Protection against irritants. Bureaucrats reject RTIS as they are not afraid of facing penal provisions outlined in Section 20 of the RTI Act. Way ahead, citizens must exert intense pressure on authorities to appoint commissioners of integrity. Lawyers must assist willing citizens in taking cases to court and seeking justice. 24 of Insights on India. Conclusion. There is a need for civil society and citizens to pressurize authorities to ensure transparency and neutrality of CIC. If they fail to do so, India will lose its cherished right to know. Central Information Commission (CIC), established by the central government in 2005, under the provisions of the Right to Information Act 2005. Members, the commission consists of a chief information commissioner and not more than 10 information commissioners. Appointment. They are appointed by the President on the recommendation of a committee consisting of the Prime Minister as chairperson, the leader of the single largest opposition party in the Lok Sabha and a union cabinet minister nominated by the Prime Minister. Tenure. The Chief Information Commissioner and an Information Commissioner shall hold office for such term as prescribed by the central government or until they attain the age of 65 years, whichever is earlier. They are not eligible for reappointment. Power and functions of CIC. It is the duty of the Commission to receive and inquire into a complaint from any person regarding information requested under RTI 2005. The Commission can order an inquiry into any matter if there are reasonable grounds suo motu power. While inquiring, the Commission has the powers of a civil court in respect of summoning, requiring documents etc. Insta curious. Do you know the Right to Information Act in India and the UK Freedom of Information Act came into force in the same year 2005? Insta links. Pending RTI please. Mains links. Q. The Central Information Commission, the apex body under India's transparency regime, must take urgent steps to remove hurdles in the citizens' quest for accountability. Examine.